Thank you for joining the information session to discuss Stage 2 Rapid Transit to Cambridge. We're here to walk you through the status of the project and what's ahead over the next few months. My name is Pat Morabito, Manager of Communications and Community Engagement for Transportation Services. I'll be your host this evening. The region of Waterloo is situated on the lands within the Haldimand Treaty of 1784, a formally ratified agreement acknowledging 6 miles on either side of the Grand River as treaty territory belonging to 6 nations of the Grand River. The region of Waterloo serves at an area within the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Chinootan, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. This territory is within the lands protected by the Dish with the One Spoon Wampum. We acknowledge the enduring presence, knowledge, and philosophies of Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge the continuing accomplishments and contributions Indigenous peoples make in shaping Waterloo Region. With me today are Neil Malcolm, Director of Transit Services, Matthew O'Neill, Manager of Rapid Transit, and Kevin Marshall, Manager of Transit Development, who will walk us through the presentation. I'll hand it over to Neil, who will introduce the project.
Thanks, Matt, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are here tonight to provide an update on the progress and gather feedback of the Stage 2 Rapid Transit to Cambridge project and the completion of the initial business case. Stage 2 Rapid Transit to Cambridge will build on the transformative impact of Stage 1. The first phase provided a convenient, reliable, and affordable way for people to get where they need to go and resulted in more than $5 billion of investment in the community. Throughout the initial business case, we will show the public how residents of Cambridge can realize the same benefits of Stage 1 with the Stage 2 implementation. The next milestone is completing the initial business case, or IBC, bringing us closer to our goal of connecting Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo with rapid transit, solidifying Waterloo Region as a desirable place to live and work. Now, Grand River Transit's Manager of Transit Development, Kevin Marshall, will provide a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil. Sharing my screen now, and we'll walk through Rapid Transit to Cambridge. So a quick overview. The initial business case, or IBC, for Stage 2 is the next milestone, bringing us closer to our goal of connecting the 3 cities with rapid transit and making Waterloo Region a desirable place to live and work. In September, we will review the benefits and costs of expanding rapid transit and discuss proposed funding options. Along the way, we will engage with residents to share what we've been working on and to ensure they are aligned with the vision. In November, we'll make a recommendation to Regional Council on the way forward to advance to the next phase of the project. A little bit of the project timeline. In 2015, construction started on Stage 1 and work started on Stage 2. In 2019, Stage 1 began operations and Regional Council endorsed the preferred route for Stage 2. In 2021, transit project assessment for Stage 2 was completed. In 2023, updated preliminary capital and operating costs were presented to Regional Council, and Council requested bus rapid transit be considered. In 2024, development of the bus rapid transit and light rail transit options were underway. And now here we are in summer of 2025, and public engagement on rapid transit to Cambridge is kicking off tonight. In fall 2025, as mentioned, our recommendations to Regional Council for the route length and vehicle type will be brought forward. And in 2026, we'll kick off the finalization of the business case and an application for full funding. So what is an initial business case? An initial business case, or IBC, allows decision makers to compare benefits and costs of different options for rapid transit. When preparing an initial business case, we consider 4 major components. The strategic case, how will the project transform Waterloo Region and why is it so important? The economic case, what are the monetary and travel benefits to the community? The financial case, how much will the project cost and how much revenue will it bring in? And deliverability and operations. So what is required to build and operate the project, including our capability, challenges, and risks. The initial business case will guide decisions about rapid transit route length and vehicle type and support our applications for full funding. As shown in this visual, the initial business case focuses on answering why we should do this work, whereas the full business case on the right-hand side of this image considers all considerations and is especially focused on finances and deliverability, so the level of detail increases up to the completion of the full business case. Think of the initial business case as our opportunity to build a shared understanding among citizens, decision makers, and provincial and federal partners on the value of rapid transit to Cambridge. So why rapid transit? This is why our initial business case and the next few slides dive deeper into rapid transit to Cambridge and why it's so important for our community, for shaping growth, connecting our communities, and moving into the future. Regarding shaping growth, the region of Waterloo is preparing for 1 million residents. Rapid transit is an important part of creating livable communities. We're able to build up and not out, and able to reduce sprawl. Reducing dependence on car travel and promoting sustainable transportation, key priorities of the region of Waterloo, and encouraging mixed-use development so more people can live closer to where they work, study, and play is key. The existing Route 302 Ion bus and the service provided today will not meet the needs of our growing community. Rapid transit will support our growth. The Central Transit Corridor connects Uptown Waterloo, downtown Kitchener, and downtown Cambridge, as you can see in the image and map on the right-hand side of this slide. The aim is to concentrate growth along the Central Transit Corridor. For example, what we've seen with Stage 1 is that more than $5 billion in investment was generated for the Central Transit Corridor. When it comes to connecting communities, dating back to 1976, the vision for rapid transit was a continuous connection from Waterloo to Kitchener to Cambridge. Kitchener and Waterloo residents have seen clear benefits since Ion Light Rail began operating, including frequent and reliable service and easy to access and use our system. By extending rapid transit to Cambridge, residents of Cambridge will enjoy the same benefits created by Stage 1. Many people in Waterloo region live in one community and work in another here in the region. So rapid transit increases access to jobs, services, housing options, and recreation for more people across all of Waterloo region. As we think about moving into the future, rapid transit forms the spine of our growing transit network. Rapid transit is essential to the delivery of the GRT business plan, which was recently approved by Council, as it increases speed of service, introduces higher frequency of service to Cambridge, and makes transit easier to use. The 302 Ion bus, as mentioned earlier, will not be able to meet the needs of our transit network as we expand and support our growing population. As we prepare for 1 million residents, rapid transit can carry far more passengers than regular bus service and can do so conveniently and comfortably and intuitively. Route 302 Ion bus today, compared to bus rapid transit and light rail transit, it's worth taking a moment to discuss the differences. In 2023, Regional Council asked that bus rapid transit, or BRT, be evaluated as part of the initial business case alongside light rail transit, or LRT. Bus rapid transit uses high-frequency, high-capacity vehicles running in separate, dedicated lanes. It's worth taking a moment to mention that the 302 Ion bus is considered adapted bus rapid transit, or ABRT. It is not a full bus rapid transit or BRT option. Buses today on the 302 Ion bus operate mostly in mixed traffic and are impacted by congestion and road closures that reduce its speed and reliability. This chart is another way to look at the different systems. The 302 Ion bus, on the far left column, is closer to an express bus service with some typical transit priority items that we use on other routes across the GRT network, like bus priority signals at certain intersections or bus-only lanes for short stretches. In comparison, the middle column, the BRT column, provides dedicated, separate bus lanes for the entire line and is often built to immediately support higher capacity buses like articulated bendy buses. The best Ontario example is York Region's Viva Bus Rapid Transit line. Next to BRT is light rail transit, or LRT, which shares many of the similar traits as BRT, with the addition of dedicated tracks, similarly separated from traffic lanes. We can see a great example of this, the best example of this, right here in the community in Waterloo Region with the 301 Ion Light Rail. So when we consider options for rapid transit to Cambridge, the initial business case will consider 5 options. Full light rail transit service, seeing the light rail transit line extended from Fairway Station to downtown Cambridge, creating one continuous LRT route. Several partial LRT service options, which are shortened LRT routes that would connect to the remaining stations by express bus. One option is Fairway Station to Pine Bush Station. One option is Fairway Station to Delta Station. And one option is a Preston Station to downtown Cambridge Station. Bus rapid transit service that's being considered is a dedicated and separated BRT line for high frequency buses between Fairway Station to downtown Cambridge. Another way to look at this is using the image or map I'm showing here on the screen, which shows the 5 options we just discussed. It's a helpful way to visualize the different options considered in the initial business case. And the results of the evaluation of the 5 options will shape our public engagement and ultimately help decision makers determine the vehicle type and route length to carry forward to the full business case. When it comes to funding rapid transit, Ion Light Rail was funded by all 3 levels of government, our federal partners, provincial partners, and contribution by the Region of Waterloo, the municipal level. Our service is owned by the Region of Waterloo, which includes all the infrastructure and vehicles, and is operated by the region's contractor, which is Keolis. Since the approval of Ion Light Rail, new funding, ownership, and operation models for rapid transit projects have developed across the province. So, for example, the Eglinton Crosstown Light Rail Transit Line is fully funded by the provincial government. The underway Hamilton Light Rail Transit Line is fully funded by the federal and provincial governments. Dundas Bus Rapid Transit Line has been funded by municipal, federal, and provincial governments. So upon endorsement of the initial business case, the Region of Waterloo seeks to expedite work on a full business case and apply for full funding of rapid transit to Cambridge. So we're here today to talk a little bit about how you can get involved. Staff will be hosting multiple in-person and virtual sessions for you to learn more about rapid transit and what it means for Cambridge and Waterloo Region. Residents can share their thoughts on the Engage Waterloo Region page, which we'll share a link to both in the chat and on the last slide of this presentation. And an Ipsos survey will be conducted in the fall to better understand residents' priorities and feedback regarding rapid transit. So what comes next? Here we are in August with resident engagement and awareness about our planned activities for this month and the fall. In September, we will be presenting our initial business case results. In October, we'll be doing expanded engagement and resident surveys. And in November, the results of our engagement and a recommendation will be presented to Regional Council. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me talk tonight. We're happy to answer any questions. We've got our team here to listen. In the meantime, you can find out more about the project at engagewr.ca/stage2ion. We have a QR link here. The survey is open, and we're happy to take any questions tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin, for that presentation. A quick note for anyone who is newly joined that you can put your questions and comments into the Q&A tool or raise your hand and we'll give you an opportunity to ask your question. Feedback will also be collected through Engage Waterloo Region and the link is on the screen. So let's go ahead and open it up. So we got a couple of questions. The first question here, why are we considering BRT instead of just extending LRT? Matt, over to you, please.
Great, thanks for the question. So in response to updated cost estimates in 2023, Regional Council directed staff to evaluate BRT alongside different LRT options in the initial business case. It is common for an initial business case to evaluate different technologies, specifically LRT and BRT. So that's fairly common, and to compare the costs and benefits. And really, we want to validate the results and to ensure we're getting the maximum benefits and value from the project.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. All right. The next question here. I've heard that it'll take 2 years just to prepare the business case for phase 2. If so, can you speak to why that is? Matt, over to you.
Great, thank you. So we are completing the initial business case. So there are multiple business cases typically completed through the life of a project, done with various levels of detail and accuracy. And so after this business case, we will be seeking direction from council to proceed with the core work that needs to be done to move the project forwards towards implementation. So design, property acquisition, utility coordination, looking at contracting methods. So all of that is really the critical path towards implementation. So along the way and in parallel, we will be developing more design information, and we will need to do a full business case as part of any with any funding arrangement that we have, and as part of the evolution of a project, we need to do a full business case. So that will be done in parallel. It's not going to delay anything or hold us up, but we will use more the design work that we've developed, and we will refine the cost estimates and ensure that we are maximizing value and we are limiting costs as much as possible. And so it's very similar to what we've done here, but at a greater level of detail and closer to implementation.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt. All right, then we're going to jump to the next question here. What are the options with extended buses, meaning articulated buses, as the 302 is standing room at peak times? Kevin, over to you, please.
Well, thank you very much for the question. And I get to connect our ION Stage 2 presentation to our recently approved Grand River Transit Business Plan. Under the broader Grand River Transit Business Plan, we lay out the next 10 years of investment in our transit network that supports both rapid transit to Cambridge, as well as current and future planned services. So we have identified a number of key routes for consideration for fleet expansion or upgrades to articulated bendy buses. The 302 is a candidate for this service. So over the next few years, as we review our fleet renewal plan, 302 ION bus and a few of our other frequent transit network lines will serve as key candidates to introduce articulated buses. So more to come on that, but it is a key candidate within the next 10 years for upgrades to articulated bus service.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, we have a question here around, can you say more about what has changed in ownership and operation options since ION Stage 1 from Michael. Michael, I'm just wondering if you could provide a little bit more clarity to what you're looking to understand there. As outlined in the presentation, there are new funding models that have funded different rapid transit projects in the region. So just want a little bit more clarity so we can get a better answer for you. While we wait, why don't we jump to the next question? How is BRT different from 302? Kevin, I'll throw that to you.
Thank you very much. I'll lean a little bit more on our presentation we shared earlier, and just clarify, one of the pieces with the 302 ION bus today, we do have some features of what a true bus rapid transit system has. Like we have a few queue jump lanes, which is when you get close to an intersection, dedicated space for a bus to jump ahead of traffic using transit signal priority. But more or less, we do not have a dedicated road or lane or bus lane, I should say, for the entire length of the line. So when most of the, I'll call it true bus rapid transit systems BRT systems in North America and elsewhere have a dedicated bus-only travel lane separated from the rest of traffic for the entire corridor. So that's the York Region example we've shared. There's a few others in North America that we look to, and again, they have a dedicated bus travel lane for the entire length that's separated from traffic.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, continuing on. Next question. Regardless of the option selected, where exactly would a Delta station be located? How would the LRT vehicle get through the intersection? Matt, over to you, please.
Great. So the nice thing about the route is that we heard a lot of feedback from the public between 2015 and 2019. Don't go through the Delta. Don't go through the intersection, please. And so we heard that loud and clear. And so we worked very hard to avoid that intersection and take up any more sort of green time for other movements. So the route would go down Hespeler Road, and at Avenue Road, it would go off street and have a station just off street. So where the gas station is now, give or take, in the vicinity of Avenue Road and Brooklyn. So that's where the station would be, and it would continue then and tuck in behind the houses and along the rail corridor. And then it would cross over Samuelson and then make its way to Main and Dundas and then on from there. So that's how it gets basically from Hespeler Road into downtown Cambridge. I hope that makes sense. There are drawings on the Stage 2 ION website, on the Engage page and the Region's website. If you need help finding it, feel free to get in touch and we'll connect you to those drawings.
Thanks, Matt. All right, just following up then on the previous question around the changes in ownership and operations in Stage 1. So just additional clarification. So wondering if there is more openness now to options that don't include a full public-private partnership and to fully public operation, or conversely, are you looking at options for someone other than the region to own the line? Neil, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. I really appreciate the question. It's, as we've had ION Phase 1 in operation now for 6 years, we continue to review the success that's been in terms of the partnership we have with the private contractor Keolis as they operate and maintain the system. So really some positive wins there on things that have happened in Stage 1. I think as we move through the IBC for Stage 2, we work with upper levels of government to source funding. We look at models that have been developed in Hamilton and other locations that are slightly different than ours here in Waterloo. And we need to keep those on the table in terms of possibilities that will work successfully for us with Phase 2. So I wouldn't say they're off the table, but as we still early stages in finishing off the initial IBC, then seek the funding and look at all the options that are available to us, I think those things will be under consideration.
Thanks, Neil. Continuing on. Will the rapid transit proposals include service increases to other areas of Cambridge? Many people do not live within walking and biking distance of the proposed 302 rapid transit routing, and having increases like more frequent buses, traffic priority, more express routes, etc., would improve transit for the whole city instead of just people who live along the 302 route. Kevin?
Oh, thank you very much for this question. Really happy to share that earlier this year we had Regional Council approve the Grand River Transit Business Plan. So what that tees up for Stage 2 considerations is the supporting network. So the options considered this fall treat the proposed service investments for the rest of our network basically the same. And that's actually a good thing, because what we're looking at from what we've had approved for council over the next 10 years and beyond for the rest of the Grand River Transit network is a frequent transit network that basically mirrors the success of what we've seen on the Central Transit Corridor on our entire iExpress network, as well as a number of local routes in Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo. So introducing 10-minute service during the weekdays and improvements, including proposed overnight services, as well as new coverage areas. So we are happy to announce that we have council support for our strategy to invest in the supporting network for any and all options considered for Cambridge for rapid transit. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, next question. Specifically about costs, how is the region planning to maintain or reduce costs of stage two? Whether it's through improving procurement, project management, etc. Is it possible for the region to retain in-house talent like what was done with stage one? Matt?
Yes, the answer is yes. We'd like to reduce costs. We'd like to retain talent. I'm one of those people that was involved in stage one. I've been at the region since 2015. There are people that were deeply involved in stage one, still at the region, that we're looking to leverage and retain and apply to stage two. So in terms of reducing costs, we really need to advance the design in order to do some value engineering to see there are a lot of opportunities to reduce costs with the design, with the scope, with the procurement approach. Really, it's going to be getting into the details, and it's going to be finding a balance of contract type, schedule, and balance of risk, and what makes the most sense. So that analysis will need to be done. It'll be done with input to regional council and council making the decision about what the right balance is between risk, schedule, cost, contract type, all of those things.
Thanks, Matt. Coming to you with the next question. When would construction start?
Great question. I can't wait to find the answer to that and to ride rapid transit myself. I grew up in Cambridge. I live in Cambridge. So we'd all like to know the answer to that one. We have a lot to do. So the first thing is to get endorsement approval from regional council and direction to move ahead with all of the work that needs to be done. And the next big item is to request funding, and we're going to be seeking full funding. And so once that happens, that's really the key milestone that starts a lot of things moving forward. We have design work to do. We have property to buy, utilities to coordinate and relocate. We have to figure out the approach to the contract type of procurement. So a lot of those things, there's a little bit of variability in there. And so we have a lot of steps to take. So it's a bit early right now to say when construction would start. We have a few things to figure out first. But thanks for the question.
Thanks, Matt. All right, so we've got a couple of questions here about cost. I'll read them both out and we'll answer them together. First one, so I'm not a fan of the funding model, splitting costs three ways between provincial, federal, and municipal levels. Municipalities have far fewer resources available for this type of infrastructure spending. What is the region doing to secure funding to be split between the provincial and federal levels? We need to keep the regional/municipal commitment to a minimum. And related, in terms of costs, I understand it's quite expensive to build bridges to get the LRT vehicles over the Speed and Grand Rivers. What can be done to bring the cost down or secure more funding from the province? Matt?
So we will be advocating for funding, for full funding. I think that this project is more than just a transit project. It's a community building project. It's a land use project. It's a housing project. It's a jobs project. And so I think that there are a lot of really good cases to be made here to the province and to the federal government as to why this is not just a great project, but it's strategically important to the community and to the province and to the country to support our growth, our continued growth, and the economic prosperity of the community and the province. In terms of the cost and the bridges, yeah, that's a big ticket item. There are a lot of bridges and structures. We need to do a bit more field work to determine the soil conditions and some foundations design. And once we get into that, we can start looking at optimizing the bridge design for cost and what's going to be the most cost-effective approach. So that's on the list of things that we need to move forward and advance. And so we look forward to starting that work after November when we get the direction from council.
Thanks, Matt. Continuing on. Given the desperate need for deeply affordable housing, is the region factoring this into their densification plans at the proposed stations? Are planners advising how to ensure development around the stations is equitable as part of the business plan? Kevin.
Well, thank you very much. When it comes to rapid transit to Cambridge and other key transit-related projects funded by provincial and federal partners, especially recently, they're increasingly tied to housing targets. You can see this very clearly in the recently announced Canada Permanent Public Transit Fund, where it ties to both provincial, federal, and local municipal housing targets to unlock more access to housing in communities. So the short answer is yes, we are considering this in collaboration with all levels of government when it comes to major transit investments. And then also locally, when we work with our city partners, when we consider station area planning, this is definitely a focus as well too. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, keeping on. Why are you considering options that don't go all the way from Fairway to Galt? Matt.
Well, the IBC has and needs alternatives. When we originally started drafting the initial business case work, we were looking at LRT, and we also knew typically the province does not do business cases on just one thing. There are alternatives. And at the time, with LRT in hand, we wanted something for comparison to validate the benefits and the value that we were getting from the project. It also seemed to make sense to look at what the right length is. And sometimes you don't know ahead of time what the results are going to be. And so it was initially crafted with those alternatives. Council in 2023, in response to increasing cost estimates, also added a standalone LRT system to the list of alternatives from Preston Station to downtown Cambridge. So that gave us a good sort of list of alternatives to give us some comparison to make sure that we are getting the most benefits out of the project. I think the results will be really interesting. I can tell you that the original vision by regional council was a spine that connected a transportation corridor that connected North Waterloo down to downtown Cambridge. Downtown Cambridge being one of our urban cores, having existing density and mixed land uses, being very transit supportive, and also having a really strong transit hub there now at Ainsley, acting as a hub and spoke system. So I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Matt. Okay. How is the Stage 2 ION plan to interface with the potential Pine Bush to Guelph GO line? Additionally, related to the GRT business plan, why was the GO train left off? I'd suggest looking at a GO station in Hespeler would help Hespeler residents get onto the ION. Kevin?
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, this is another great one of connecting the Grand River Transit business plan to the ION, the Rapid Transit to Cambridge initial business case, to another recent initial business case we've completed in collaboration with Metrolinx and others on GO service. So as part of the Grand River Transit business plan, we definitely heard from the public and agree that we would love to see improved connections from Waterloo Region to communities across the Greater Toronto Hamilton area and Southwestern Ontario. In particularly, we helped prepare an initial business case. The region actually led an initial business case proposing passenger rail service between Cambridge and Guelph. So thinking of a GO service between Cambridge and Guelph. A regional council endorsed this initial business case and has asked Metrolinx, the provincial agency responsible for interregional transit, to implement this service in the future. So the short answer is yes. We are also very keen to see this come to fruition, and we've considered this in our planning for the Pine Bush station and how we can exchange between that future service. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. What are key lessons learned from ION LRT Phase 1 that will be incorporated into Phase 2 construction? I recall that some platforms had to be rebuilt due to build quality issues during Phase 1. Matt, to you, please.
That's a great question and a great example of what worked well for the region because anything that had to be rebuilt was not at our cost. So we retained a contractor who was responsible at the end of it to provide something, which they did. If you compare our system to other LRT systems that have been built, are being built, we got it done within budget for a good price and on a very good timeline. And we're open and we're running, and it's been running well, and it's been a huge success. So I think there's more successes from stage one. I think there are still some lessons learned, probably mostly around procurement. I think the market has changed around procurement, so there's things that need to be adjusted there. I think we've learned that when it comes to P3s, we're a little wiser now, having gone through a P3. For example, if you want something, you ask for it, you specify it. That would be an example of a lesson learned. So we're going to leverage all of that. We're going to leverage staff, the design, and our existing system, and apply all of that to stage two.
Thanks, Matt. All right, continuing on. As someone younger and unfamiliar with how transit in the region works, can you explain a bit more about the role the region of Waterloo plays versus the city of Cambridge? Are the decisions on LRT mostly up to regional council, or does the city council / mayor also make decisions? Neil, to you, please.
Great, thank you, Pat. And that's a fun question. So in the region of Waterloo, regional council is responsible for decisions around the direction and delivery of service for Grand River Transit. We provide transit service across the 3 cities, into the townships. So it's a pretty broad portfolio with lots of transit service. Now, that said, the mayors of the 3 cities all have seats on regional council. There's directly elected officials on regional council from all the cities. The mayors of the townships sit on council. So really, it's a collaborative effort when you talk about the delivery of this large service across all these areas. So there are decision makers on regional council that represent the local municipalities. We do a lot of collaboration with staff in the area where service is being provided, staff and city council as well, to make sure everyone's aware of services that we're providing, gather feedback as much as possible from residents and politicians to make sure we're delivering the best service for the residents that we can. So really, I'd say it's, of course, the final decisions around transit service come through regional council, but there's a lot of collaboration with all levels to make sure we're getting it right.
Thank you, Neil. Okay. Mode question. So instead of an LRT, why not a subway line? Matt, can you take this one?
I love this. This gets to the heart of the essence of transportation planning and transit, and why this mode, and why light rail, why rapid transit makes sense. So this is something we definitely looked at as part of stage one for the region as a whole. We looked at all kinds of technologies, including subway, monorail. Why not elevate the whole way, and so you have no level crossings? The magic of light rail in Kitchener-Waterloo is that it has just the right balance of station spacing and trip time. It's highly integrated into the streetscape, so it's really walkable and accessible to people. It's not obtrusive. It's not up in the air. It's at the right price point in terms of being economical, being cost effective, and delivering the right amount of priority and integration with other traffic. And we fit it into our roadways and our corridors, and we made it work. And so it was, you can look at the spectrum of different, you can look at a metro or a subway or something that much bigger and heavier that moves more people. And so really this is about optimizing the system for the purpose, the right tool for the job, so to speak. So in this case, we actually did look at, in some instances, Shantz Hill, for example, for stage two. Well, should we be cutting down a tunnel? Should we be tunneling? Does that make sense here? And the answer we arrived at is it's extremely expensive, and it didn't make the benefits it gave us really didn't warrant the extra expense to, say, flatten a slope. And so being at grade is very cost effective and generally works. In some cases, it doesn't. Crossing the Grand, crossing the Speed River, we need to be elevated up and over through the valley. So, but otherwise being at grade is pretty cost effective.
Thanks, Matt. All right, so we've got two similar questions here that we'll tackle as one. In a recent Record article, it was stated that an accelerated timeline where the region assumes some risk, doing full work before full funding is secure, is a possible option. Can you expand on what an accelerated timeline would mean? Thinking beyond an accelerated business case, would phasing construction/project delivery in sections be a possibility? I'm concerned about a worst-case scenario where the project is delayed numerous times, like the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, which is 10 years late enough that the trains procured are no longer fit for service, leading to additional delays. Related, if the project were fully approved and funding was available imminently, how could this project be accelerated? Are the long poles vehicles, construction, and property acquisition? Matt?
So we need to, we're very keen to advance this project. We're keen to advance it the right way, with the right balance of cost and risk. So that will be done together with regional council. I know council is also very keen and enthusiastic to see this project implemented. And so how could we accelerate? There's various ways to accelerate by combining contracting packages, tender packages with one contractor. So for stage one, we basically have one big DBF, one big contract where all the risk is with one party and we hand it off to them. So that's one way where you can say, do it all. Whereas if you separate packages, that might add a little bit of time. It might reduce overall risk, or we take on more risk, and may save you money. So there's a balance to be had. So that analysis needs to be done still as to what the best way to accelerate work. Another way is in-housing versus, hiring more consultants to do work. So is this going to be something we hire staff for, or is this something where we get external parties to tackle the work? And then it is about risk tolerance. So that is schedule risk, budget risk, technical design risk, and how much we're comfortable with. And so really there isn't necessarily one right answer there. And that's why an analysis needs to be done, and a recommendation would be brought to council as to what the schedule should look like, what the risks are, and how much we think that that's going to cost us. Part of that will be a value for money exercise for to identify the preferred procurement approach, like we did on stage one, where we can say this makes sense because it gets us additional value, because an external party, for example, is better able to handle the following risks. And so that still needs to be done. That is on our list of things to do.
Thank you. Okay, continuing on. How is actual ridership on 302 today impacting planning for LRT Stage 2? Kevin?
Oh, thank you very much. So 302 Ion Bus is part of our frequent transit network today. We match and line up to services with light rail. It is one of our more productive routes in our network, and really has served as part of the rationale for mirroring that and building out a frequent transit network across our community. But as we mentioned in the presentation, the current Ion Bus service, 302, will be insufficient to meet the needs of our community moving forward. The other piece worth mentioning is the difference between 302 Ion Bus and true dedicated bus rapid transit when it comes to on-time performance. We see this in the comparison between the light rail transit line with its dedicated transit signal priority along the entire route, separated from traffic. We see on-time performance at or above exceeding 95%. So that means all trips are on time. Whereas in comparison, Ion Bus, subject to being mixed traffic and congestion and other pieces because it doesn't have a dedicated corridor, is in the 80s. So from a customer experience, choosing to ride the dedicated experience, making those connections across our network, making it on time to where you need to go, the confidence of bus rapid transit or light rail transit options are one of the key reasons we're considering that, alongside that other piece, which is that the 302 service today it'll be insufficient to meet the needs of our community that's growing moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we got a couple of questions here about speed, so let's tackle those together. So, first one, is there an opportunity to make the phase 2 trains run faster than phase 1 due to the longer distances between the stations, particularly between Fairway and Preston? And then, do you have any information about travel time differences when comparing BRT to LRT? Matt, over to you.
Yeah, we have an opportunity for stage 2 to operate at a higher average speed. So we have some long distances between stations, and so that does offer an opportunity to run at higher speeds. We have some long stretches of off-street sections, so through the Grand River Valley, for example, over the Speed River. So yes, the trip time is on probably around a half an hour between Fairway and downtown Cambridge. So that's, I think, competitive with auto, and I think very attractive. So I think this is a really good opportunity on stage 2 to optimize some geometry and get some high operating speeds. It probably we would operate trains and buses at about the same speed. So at this planning level, they're equivalent. I mean, trains can operate at 80 kilometers an hour, buses can operate at 80 kilometers an hour. So for our purposes, they're on par with each other for operating speed. They would have similar dwell times at stations and similar turnaround times at the terminals. The only difference, though, being that if we have a BRT system, that would necessitate a transfer at Fairway. So in terms of overall trip time, if you are making the transfer, there is some added delay with making that transfer onto the LRT system. Whereas if we extend it as LRT, it would be one continuous, seamless, one seats ride and system. So you can get on in downtown Cambridge and it could carry you all the way into Waterloo without having to get off or transfer along the way.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, continuing on. How might someone supportive of LRT best get involved and show support? Would the survey be the main way? Also, the Engage WR page lists public information sessions and pop-up sessions. Are these the same thing? Kevin.
I think from the engagement side of thing, I think you're doing the first greatest thing you can do tonight, which is to learn more about the project. One of the reasons we're doing these sessions, including the information sessions and pop-up sessions, which are some are more formal locations and some are us throughout our network to help bring awareness to the project. But our big goal is that enthusiastic folks like yourself, regardless of the options that you're considering or where we stand, are involved in the project and helping share this message. So by being here tonight is the first step, and I'd encourage you to share this information with friends, family, groups that you may know that'd be interested in learning more, and help them stay engaged throughout the process. As we get closer to decision time too, be more information of how you can get involved and the recommendations going forward. So please stay plugged in, and anything you can do to help amplify this message and these opportunities to participate is the best way forward. Thank you so much for your interest.
Thanks, Kevin. All right. Next question. Do we have a timeline on when this project will be done by? Matt, over to you, please.
I'd love to know the answer to that. I can't wait to ride this thing. Yeah, there are a lot of steps to take before we can really be confident of that. And so it's a bit early for us to say when we think it would go live and start running. You know, we've seen a real range. You know, with some other systems, I'm pretty sure we can do a better job than some other LRTs that are currently being built and may or may not be operating right now. I think the region has a good track record of delivering and implementing rapid transit. So I think we can feel good about that. But really, we need to get down and do the details, do the design, the field investigations, get into property acquisition, and to start moving things forward, and most importantly, getting funding. So that's really the trigger point to really where the dominoes start to fall into place, and we can start talking about timelines.
Thanks, Matt. All right, continuing on. Further to the question about GO Train planning and integration, has the region explored partnering with the City of Guelph to pilot an express bus service to and from Guelph GO Station to build ridership? Building that ridership could attract more ridership for ION Phase 2. Kevin?
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it is a question we've had some inquiries about. One of the big pieces when we were building out the GRT business plan, considering the initial business case for GO service and the feasibility between Cambridge and Guelph. It's key why we work very closely with Metrolinx and our Ministry of Transportation partners. Region of Waterloo owns and operates Grand River Transit, intended to serve and deliver transit services within Waterloo region. Similar with our parties in Guelph, their focus is on the local municipal needs as well too. There are examples of where other agencies connect across communities, but it's worth noting that we do have GO Bus services connecting our communities to date. And one of the things we can do as the transit agency, as well as our partners and engaged public like yourself, is advocate for our provincial partners to see the opportunities to provide additional GO Bus service in the interim to help support our current and future plans for a connected integrated service. So we are really looking at and collaborating with Metrolinx and others to see opportunities to enhance the services we offer today, including things like the ideas shared here today about an express service. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin. Before I continue on, just wanted to do a last call. If there are any questions out there, please make sure that you put them in the Q&A so we can get them answered here today. Right, next question. If BRT was selected, would it use the highway to get between Cambridge and Kitchener? The current 302A BRT uses the highway and it's very quick to getting to Kitchener, and I'm just wondering if we'll be losing part of that speed by having the bus go through Preston instead of the 401. Matt, over to you, please.
Great question. This is a good point. The 302 using the highway and using the shoulder. So we paid extra to have the shoulder beefed up so we could make use of it. It was a great solution for what it is. If you're looking just to get between Fairway and downtown Cambridge, then that's a great use of existing assets and roadways and corridors. The challenge with 302 is it's not hitting Preston right now. And when we looked at the different routes for stage 2, we spent a lot of time, especially in the Preston area. It's really key to balance the average operating speed and access that a system provides. You need enough stations that you're accessing places where people live and destinations where people want to get to. And we found it was really, really critical to get a Preston station in there to get that existing ridership where people live and where people want to be. And it's a great walkable area that's great for transit. So you have to balance those two objectives. One of the routes we looked at that went along Maple Grove and down either to Hespeler or down Speedsville was faster, but it skipped a station. It didn't have that station. And so in theory, you could just do an LRT system around the whole city, but it would ignore the primary purpose of the project, which is to shape growth, to influence land use, to provide better access via transit to the communities. And to do that, you need to get into the community with the system. Now, getting into Preston, we did find we could skip a big chunk of Eagle Street by taking an unused, abandoned rail spur. And that allowed us to keep the speeds up and skip a section of on-road LRT. So there are opportunities to increase speeds, but where it is right now with the alignment and with the geometry, it's very good speeds and it has a really good balance of stations and access to speed.
Thanks, Matt. All right. How is the city of Cambridge engaged on station area planning so that land uses along the Ion line is dense and transit supportive? Kevin, what do you?
Well, thank you very much. The short answer is we work really closely with the city of Cambridge on planning for the future needs of transit supportive services, especially along the Central Transit Corridor, but also collaborating when we were envisioning our future transit network for the city of Cambridge more broadly. There's a couple of really great examples we could point to where we've collaborated very well, including recent work with the city of Cambridge to launch a transit-oriented development grant program that uses the Central Transit Corridor and helps encourage the type of development we want to see. And so that was a great partnership between the region and city of Cambridge. And so there's a lot of great work we can build off from those steps as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Following up on the question about speed, if trip times from Galt to Fairway are to be 30 minutes, that would mean roughly a 73-minute trip from Galt to Conestoga Station, compared to roughly a 30-minute drive. What can be done to make longer trips like this more comparable to driving? Matt.
The reality is our community has pretty good roadway infrastructure and access via cars. And so it's very difficult to be competitive with driving around, especially when you have a highway running up through Kitchener-Waterloo. So I will admit that it's very difficult to be, strictly speaking, competitive. I think the advantage of LRT and rapid transit is that you don't need to be actively engaged in driving. You can be productive on the train. It's comfortable. I think the perception of how long it takes, I think it's very frequent, it's very reliable, and so that frequent access and that reliability is a huge advantage. Not having to park. I mean, rapid transit has a lot of different advantages. Parking, owning a vehicle. Not everybody has access to a vehicle. The cost of vehicles, so it's reducing costs. So it's providing a number of different advantages, not just about strictly how long is it going to take me. I think during peak, I think that's also going to be a different conversation where rapid transit has very predictable and consistent trip times. I think that in Cambridge there are fixed opportunities for access across the highway and into Kitchener-Waterloo. That I don't know how much that capacity is going to be changing in the future, but providing transit will increase that capacity and the ability to get between the communities in a manner other than driving. So with stage one, we see it has very good ridership. It's very popular. And it's popular not because people get to where they're going faster than if they would drive. They ride the train for other reasons. And so I think we're competing on a different basis than we're going to get you there faster. The other thing to mention here is that the ridership and the transportation goals are basically half the picture. The other half of the picture is the land use, is supporting density, supporting walkability, the ability to bike to a station and get on with a bike or a mobility device. It's the ability to connect to the rest of the transit system. And so it's offering this great access at great frequency and reliability to a broader cross section of the community. And it's doing it through Cambridge. And it's going to influence, it's not only going to influence land use in the urban areas, but it's going to support those land uses that are coming anyway with a growing population.
Thanks, Matt. All right. How will you help Hespeler residents get onto the Ion? Kevin.
Once upon a time, I lived on Spring Street in Hespeler, and this question is pretty near and dear to me. This is where our business plan really, again, leans and ties into rapid transit to Cambridge. So the approved GRT business plan outlines our frequent transit network. I mentioned that earlier in the presentation. The frequent transit network is taking that same idea with 302 Ion Bus and applying it to key routes across our network, which would provide ideally 10-minute service from 7 to 7 throughout the weekdays. And so consistent, high-frequency service to communities across Waterloo Region, particularly for Hespeler. What this looks like is most of the services in the Hespeler area would be candidates for that frequent transit network. So Hespeler is a growing community. We also have great destinations to connect to and from. So much like elsewhere in our network, where we use the Central Transit Corridor, the Rapid Transit line, and we feed to and from it, we would be providing high-frequency bus service, both express and local high-frequency services through the Hespeler core and growing communities to connect to Pine Bush Station and elsewhere along the Rapid Transit line, such as at Central or at Cambridge Center Station as well too. So the idea here is that we support Hespeler's access to the Rapid Transit line with high-frequency bus services that connect not only to the Rapid Transit line, but other communities across Waterloo Region. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, just continuing on the Hespeler theme. If a BRT was introduced along Hespeler Road, would other routes that use Hespeler Road, 51 specifically, but also buses going to Cambridge Center, be able to use the dedicated lanes? Kevin.
Yeah, I think the short answer is something we'll take away. The idea is where we're practical. That is definitely a value add that we could consider. I think we'd have to. That's a good question. I'll work with Matt to see if we can detail out in some of our future communications and clarify that where we see where we can use the network best. I don't know, Matt, if you have anything else to add on that in real time here.
Yeah, that's called interlining. PNUF BRT in Montreal does that. It can work great. It really comes down to the details. So the type of bus you have and the type of station you have and whether the technology is compatible or not. And then also whether you want to do that and use the middle of the road. So for stage one, we have bus stops that are a little more closely spaced, and they can give you a little bit better access to the destination you really want to get to. So that provides some benefits. So there's trade-offs to be had there. We'll have to do an analysis to see whether that makes sense, but certainly we will look at that and want to take advantage of any potential opportunities to optimize the transit system and make best use of the rapid way in the middle of the road.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the biggest way to say that is, we be strategic with it, but our 51 and other supporting services do serve other objectives and that help support rapid transit, but then also support the needs of the local community too. So I think we can just say for this conversation today that we would definitely explore that, and where it made sense, we would definitely be strategic and use that to the transit network's advantage. Thanks. Great question.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next question. I understand one of the main benefits of LRT is the land use impact. One of my concerns is that benefit might not be equally distributed. For example, it might price out existing residents for more expensive housing. What are some plans to ensure the extension has an equitable impact? Additionally, if there's any examples of this being considered in the past for phase one, I'd love to hear it too. Neil, throw that one to you.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. I thank you for the question. It's a really important one. I think Kevin or Matt talked about it earlier in terms of, affordable housing, the provision of housing within the region of Waterloo, all the cities and the townships and across the province is so fundamentally tied to transit. Transit is one of the keys that can unlock access to housing in so many ways, any type of housing, affordable housing, and through the gambit. So really we want to make sure whatever plans we're putting forward for funding opportunities are really tied to the need to support the provision and the creation of housing. So we continue to work with other regional departments like community services and housing to make sure that all our plans related to transit and rapid transit to Cambridge in particular are working in coordination and deriving home the ability to create and make affordable housing a reality and more housing a reality. I don't have a specific example to your phase one question, but I think it's something we should look into. And all the development along the Ion phase one corridor, like it's striking and remarkable how much development has occurred along that corridor before and since construction and operation. So I think we really need to think about that for stage two and how we can continue to drive, community building, but also make sure affordable housing remains a big part of the project and the plan.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Neil.
Pat.
All right. Thank you for answering all of our questions. You're welcome. All of this talk about stage two has me excited about the future of rapid transit. And I'm curious, are there any plans on future rapid transit expansions beyond stage two, specifically on east and west corridors? Kevin.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Great question, and appreciate the kudos too. These initiatives are a long time in the making. We can look to the region's efforts through our official plan and most recently in our upcoming integrated mobility plan, previously our transportation plans that look at our transportation network as a whole. There's some candidate rapid transit corridors we've considered in those plans, both for near-term opportunities for things like transit priority improvements that would support future rapid transit lines. And then, of course, the long-term considerations for what those corridors could look like to support different types of rapid transit. I think I'll use that as a great highlight to say later this year, we'll be sharing more on our integrated mobility plan, which again looks at the broader transportation network, goods movement, transit integration, transit priorities for a longer term horizon, but does set out some of our key considerations for other rapid transit lines. So that's a good pitch to stay tuned to learn more about other great transportation related initiatives that the region will be announcing later this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And thank you everyone for your thoughtful and detailed questions tonight. I can see there are no more questions, so we'll wrap here. On behalf of our team, thank you to everyone who took the time to join us tonight. Please remember to fill out our survey using the link in the presentation. We will continue to collect feedback until the end of October. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you again.